Happy Tomato Pizza. Chris Brinkley with Coach Heath Schroyer as the UT Martin Skyhawk men have a couple games this week. Belmont coming up on Thursday at Belmont, and then the game is at home on Saturday. Coach, how are you?
Good, Chris. How are you?
Good. How's the volume? Are we okay here?
Yeah, we're great.
Yeah, I just want to tell our listeners you have great hearing for a man that's about my age. That's impressive. So, are you old enough to? Did you listen to a Walkman when you were growing up?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you had
They
the
just
boom
started
box?
coming out. Oh yeah. Yeah. Just started coming out.
What kind of? I don't even know. I can't. I would either. I got you for like AC/DC and
Yeah,
stuff.
I grew up with all that stuff. Led Zeppelin.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
My uncles and when I was a little kid, they were big Zeppelin guys, and so yeah, I grew up with all that stuff.
I'm kind of just now discovering Zeppelin a little bit. Yeah, I kind of missed out on all that because here I started working in radio when I was 16, and we played country music. So I know all the, and then being in Nashville, and
Right.
so I know that. And then as we were growing up, hip hop became very popular, and some people thought it was just a fad. Well,
Right.
they were absolutely wrong about that. So somehow I missed Zeppelin. So like Bon Jovi too, or is that too pop?
No, I love Bon Jovi.
Guns N' Roses.
Oh yes, absolutely. Motley Crue, all those guys.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
When's the last concert you've been to? Now you lived in Vegas, so
I
you
did.
had some
I
great
went
opportunities.
to. It's really funny because Bon Jovi came on TV the other night. It was Saturday night, I guess, late, and I texted a buddy of mine in Vegas who and his wife and Kim and I went and saw Bon Jovi in concert, and that was really cool. Really
Nice.
cool.
I bet that was.
And they're really good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a good concert experience is hearing a lot of songs that you know.
Yeah,
Well, I
of
mean,
course.
gosh, I know 20 Bon Jovi songs like right now.
It was the whole. I mean, literally, you're just singing the whole night.
Yeah.
It was really neat.
One of the things that you experience as a coach, but I don't know if you notice, is how much music is played during a game. Pre-game, halftime, post-game.
I don't
Are
even
you
hear
even
it.
paying attention? That's what
I've
I
never
thought.
heard it.
Yeah,
Really?
most of it's
Really?
hip
We
hop.
do? Yeah.
Most of it's hip hop, and I think the players, they want
Yeah.
music that fires them up.
Sure.
What's interesting to me is that, and you've been around some NBA games, they play music during the games
They do.
at NBA games.
They do. It's crazy. It's the NBA game. It is definitely a show and a business and a production. There's a lot that goes on. I mean, every timeout they got something going on, and it definitely is a production.
Would that be a distraction in college basketball, or do you see that happening someday?
I see it all filtering down. I really do.
Yeah.
I just think that people's attention span is getting smaller and smaller, and they want to be entertained, and I think all that's going to trickle down for sure.
One of the cool things that's happened, even at our level with OVC Digital Network, is that everybody can see the games. Parents, friends, family members, former players. That we didn't have that. I mean, I remember when we were growing up, you got a game once a week maybe on television. You have access to everything.
Oh, it's huge, and I think that just being able, like for my father, I mean, just being able to log in and watch the games every twice a week now, and I mean, I think it's really big. I think it's great for the league. I think it's obviously great for the parents. It's a recruiting tool that we can use. Hey, you can watch your son play every night, and I think it's definitely a huge step in the right direction.
Every single time I've ever been in your office, I think there's been a game on your television, our game.
Yeah.
When you watch film, what can you see that you can't see during a game? How is it a different experience for you as a coach?
Well, you obviously can push the rewind button. But I've been doing it for so long, and, when I was an assistant for so many years, I used to do every single scouting report, so I can see things pretty quickly.
Where were you?
When I was at Fresno, when I was at UNLV, I did a majority of them, and when I was at BYU, I did all of them. So
far enough back where you're using VCR tapes?
Absolutely.
Oh, good Lord.
Yes.
You had two VCRs hooked up?
Yes, and write down the number, and yeah, absolutely. I tell all of the GAs and stuff now, you guys got it easy. I mean, all these, you already get it cut before you get it and all that. But anyway, so yeah, I'm a video freak. I mean, I watch an inordinate amount of video. I like to watch our games right after the game, just because for myself, I try to grade myself. I should have called a timeout there. Maybe I should have subbed there. Just trying to, continue to get better as a coach, and looking at personnel and things like that. And but you can pick up a lot over film. Chris, what people like to do out of timeouts, what's their favorite play. If you chart, and I do this, is when you're scouting a game, you got play one. Well, they might run play one 4 times and play 5, 10 times, and you can kind of get a tendency of what it is. And then I try to do all that, and then break it down to 2 or 3 simple concepts for our guys.
Right, right.
So, hey, they're going to dribble and backdoor here and do that, and just try to get a couple concepts out of that can basically defend, if you will, the majority of things that they're going to do. And because, players, it's hard for players to understand and remember 10, 12 different sets and, go under on this, go over on this. I used to do that a long time ago, and as I've gotten older and I've done it longer, I really try to keep it simple and understand, here's a 2 or 3, maybe 4 concepts that we got to understand. And then in the middle of a game, I can yell out, hey, flare coming, go over the flare, things like that, because I already know the set because I've memorized it, and they're memorizing the concept.
That's so awesome. So do you like playing a team the second time in the season, because then you know how they matched up against you, and then do you go back and watch the opponent's last game plus the game when they played you?
Yeah. For sure. I mean, my staff watches every game that they play, and I usually watch the last 5 games that they play before us, and then and a lot of times, a couple times.
That's a lot of time.
It's a lot of film. I go.
If you enjoy it, it's great.
Yeah, and I get a lot out of it, and my wife, I've learned that. So I watch film during the day, obviously, and and I'll try to dedicate an hour to recruiting and things like that, and then I go home, have dinner. And once she goes to sleep, then I go back out in the living room, and here we go again.
I've talked about you behind your back, and we said this guy lives for basketball. I mean,
yeah,
really. I mean, I think that 85% of the thoughts that pop into your head during the day are about basketball. That's what you want in your coach.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. I have, I keep note. I mean, I'm really sick, but I keep little note cards, by my bed, and. If I get an idea or something, I'll wake up and I'll, put the light on and I'll draw something, and I don't know. And
when did you know basketball should be your life?
When I lived with an assistant coach my junior year in high school, because I had such a long commute, and Coach Wooten at the time said, "Look, you should stay down here with Coach Murphy." So I basically moved out when I was 16, moved in with an assistant coach who threw a mattress on the basement floor. And so, you're in that high school time, you're not going to go out with your friends and come home to Coach's house.
Right.
And the Big East and the ACC were very big at that time. So I ended up just sitting literally with my coach and just watching games. I was 16, and I'll vividly remember it was Georgetown and Syracuse, and, it was a timeout, and, Coach Murph said, "Okay, you're John Thompson. What are you saying?"
Wow.
Well, I don't know. That's what I said. So I don't know. He goes, "No, okay, what are you going to, now you're Jim Boeheim." And so then it just started me thinking that way. And, and I knew that I always knew I wanted to be into basketball at some point or some level. I've thought about a lot of things, but I always wanted to be part of the game because it's always been such a big part of my life.
And you still seem to have that excitement before the game. As a
Is
guy,
that what you call it?
No, as a guy who was the GA and walking into, I mean, to me, it looks to me like, okay, so you're a GA at Duke, and you're coming, and you're wide-eyed and you're ready. You have that. I saw that in your eyes at Tennessee Tech this past week.
Yeah, well,
I love that.
I appreciate it. It's I really do. I enjoy what we do. I enjoy building programs. I enjoy trying to play the chess, play the game with within the game. I enjoy what I do. I really do. And there's a lot of days where it gets really hard, and I'm probably harder on myself than I am on anybody else. And I want to win really bad. I want to win for the administration and for the fans, and I tell our staff that I want to win for them. I want to be able to take care of them and continue to provide for their families and things. So I feel a lot of pressure, but it's a good pressure, and
it makes you care.
Yeah. But I enjoy what I do.
I'll even say, I think we talked about this off the air, but not on the air, but when UT Martin played at UNLV last year, you were an assistant coach at UNLV, and I don't know where you were on the assistant coach's pecking order, if there was one. I have no idea where you were. I remember 2 people there at the event. I remember Stacey Augmon because I had watched him play NBA games, and I just wanted to see what he looked like in person. And I said, he's skinnier and taller than I thought he was. And I remember you. I didn't know you. I had no idea that 1 year later that we would be sitting here talking at Skyhawk Talk. But I said, that guy is passionate about basketball, and he knows basketball because you were the first assistant coach out there. You were working with the players when the dancers were still choreographing their dance, and I was trying to figure out what the phone number was there.
Yeah.
And even though I never said a word to you and had no idea that a year later I would know you, you impressed the heck out of me.
I appreciate that, Chris.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoy being on the floor. You know, I recruited the majority of those guys, so, you know, I really tried to spend a lot of time with them and developing them and helping them get better. And but I do. I mean, the times in practice, I mean, I enjoy really in the job. I really enjoy the coaching, and I really enjoy the recruiting. All the other stuff drives me nuts. I'm not very organized. I mean, Trudy would come in and my desk's a mess, but because I'm like a mad scientist. But I'm really like, those are the two things that I love to recruit, and I love to you know, and I love to coach. All the other stuff, it's just, you know, it is what it is. It's something you got to do.
I truly believe, though, Coach, if you are a player and I'm going into a game and I feel like my coach is more prepared than the other coach or as prepared, I have an advantage. And I think that our players feel that with you and your coaching staff.
I appreciate that because you know, it's what I want them to feel. You know, I tell our staff that all the time, that, you know, we have to do the best job possible to put our guys, no matter what, in the best situation to win. And you know, that's our job. That's what we have to do. And you know, and you know, just like players, I mean, the season gets long. You know, I try to always find ways to, you know, to recharge my assistants' batteries. Like sometimes, you know, hey, get out of here, whatever. And, you know, like last night, you know, I took my wife to a movie, and I actually turned my phone off.
Did you see The Sniper?
I did.
Is it good?
It was awesome.
Okay.
Sad at the end, but awesome.
I assume he dies because his family members have been on TV, but don't tell me.
Yeah. But I actually turned my phone off for 2 hours, and you know, and it was great, you know, and so that. And I know it sounds funny, but just those 2 hours, you know, and it's hard for me, you know, because I'm so locked into, you know, making that next phone call, or, you know, to recruit a player, or to, you know, watch another game and those things. But just to do that, you know, was great for me, and you know, try to figure out ways to do that for our team too, and for the coaches.
Coach, let's go back to the Tennessee Tech game.
Okay.
You made the play of the game when you called the timeout.
Yeah, I think, was it the last one?
Yeah. No, there was. I think this was timeout was on you, but DeVille had a double team came at DeVille, and we were in trouble, and you called the timeout.
Yeah.
I'm a Knicks fan. Recently, well, not recently, back when the Knicks were still somewhat competitive, Coach Fisher tried to call a timeout in the same scenario, and the officials never heard him, and he didn't call a timeout, because I think sometimes it's difficult for an official to hear a coach calling a timeout rather than a player.
Right.
There was no doubt in our minds that we needed a timeout then, and you called it.
Well, I appreciate it. You know, I could see the spacing on the floor was getting a little hairy, and you know, it was the first time all game that they did that. Our spacing wasn't very good, so you know, we just called a timeout and kind of was able to regroup and reset, and especially in the last 2 or 3, 4 minutes. Every possession in every game is obviously critical, but when you get down to those you know, last 5 or 6 possessions, they're very critical, and you want to try to get a good shot. And you know, so I thought the timeout was the best thing to do at that point.
You were so engaged and on the mark on that one.
Yeah,
if we turn the ball over in that situation, it's a game changer.
It's a game changer for sure. You know, the crowd was into it, and you know, it led to a dunk and those things. So, but yeah, it was a great game for us, and we were able to come out with a great win. And Tech is a very good team. You know, I know they're, you know, kind of stumbled out of the gate, but they're as talented as we've played against.
Let's talk about the game. The score was tied 6 times. The lead changed hands 9 times. It was one of those games. There are 2 things I want to talk about. 1, their post player, and 2, the last 6.5 seconds of the game. You said, I always like it, and when I talked to you in the pregame, you mentioned 1 player or 2 on the other team that you're a little concerned about. That's going to be a handful. For Tennessee Tech, it's Charles Jackson, who's proving to be one of the best players in the OVC and is almost averaging a double-double. He's an interesting player. He's a tough matchup.
Excuse me. He is. He's really good. I mean, he is. He's a young man that I knew in junior college. You know, he's only put up about 6 and 4 in junior college. He got hurt, but has really come into his own. He's a legitimate 6'10", 6'11", fast twitch athlete, which we talked about another night. You know, extremely explosive. Changes the game because he's a great rim protector. He's a great offensive rebounder. He's got good hands. His footwork is improving. I think he's going to be an absolute load next year. But this year he was definitely a handful, and just a guy that you know, is a hard matchup just because of his size and athleticism.
Does he have pro potential?
If he continues to get his footwork together. I mean, he's going to make money playing the game in
Overseas,
Europe somewhere,
yeah,
but
yeah.
NBA-wise, he's going to have to continue to work on his skills, and that's going to have to take a big step. But he's going to make a lot of money playing for a long time.
A player that he kind of reminds us of in the OVC only because we saw this player was Kenneth Fareed.
For sure.
Who gradually got better until he even made it to the NBA without really a great offensive skills, but he made up for it in other places.
Oh, gosh, he has an unbelievable motor. And Charles has a very similar motor. And I think that, when 10, 15 years ago, playing hard was almost a given.
Yeah.
And having a motor was almost a given. Now it's something you really have to recruit. And Charles definitely has a motor, and he just impacts the game in so many ways.
Coach, let's talk about the last 6.5 seconds,
Okay.
I think it was, on the clock. It took forever.
It
and
did.
People were texting us. They were listening to the game on the radio, watching OVC Digital. They didn't understand it. At first, I didn't understand it, but then later understood it. The deal was we turned the ball over. Right. And then there were some substitutions made that should not have been made.
Right.
Whether that's on the officials or the scorer's table, it really had nothing to do with you or their coach. And then they spent the next 10 to 15 minutes trying to figure out who was supposed to be on the floor.
Yeah. I've never seen anything like it.
I haven't either. So what do you do? I mean, at first I thought, well, is this an advantage for us or for – because as a broadcaster, you're trying to figure out whose advantage it is. Is it an advantage for you defensively? Is it an advantage for them offensively? And how, as a coach, do you keep your players engaged in what's going to determine the outcome of this game?
It's really hard. I mean, it's the first time I've ever been in that situation. I just kept, trying to keep it light for a while. I didn't think it would go that long, but after – you're waiting 4 or 5 minutes, and you just talk about simple things like, hey, they're going to probably run this or that, and make sure we're there on the catch. We're not going to foul, but after a while, Chris, and I looked over one time and I saw those guys stretching, and I said, you know what? This actually might benefit us because, they've sat for 10 minutes and now they got to make a three.
Right.
And they're cold. And they actually got a pretty good look. And but Taman did a great job of contesting it, and we were able to finish out and get a win.
Everybody there, except for the officials trying to see the video shot that showed all 10 players, had gotten restless. I mean, you could feel it.
For sure.
A sense of restlessness. But you hang on. You win that game on the road, which we talked about how tough it is to win on the road in the OVC against good teams. Yeah. But, man, you have so much experience on the road. I don't think it's as much of a challenge to your team as maybe some of the other teams. You're comfortable on the road, I think.
We spent a lot of time on it in November and December. I know that.
And as unfun as that was, it helped you.
It sure did. And, we use it a lot. We talked about that a lot before the game is, that we're built for this. I mean, we're built for road games because we've spent a lot of time on the road. We've had success on the road. The one thing about this team, obviously there's a lot of obstacles on the road. But the one thing that I really, for this team, and every team's a little bit different, we limit the distractions on the road a lot easier than you can at home because, I control where they eat, what they eat. Here's your roommate. You're going to bed at this time, and
there's a science to the roommate pairing, right?
Oh, for sure, sure.
Is it the same every game, or do you change it up?
Well, we've had so far it's been the same, but you're
you
able
take
to
away
control.
their cell phones?
We don't.
Some coaches do.
They do. We haven't done that. We talk about obviously getting rest and but just being able to be together and have a meal together. And, and the one thing that I look at all the time is not every player sits by the same player at every meal.
Because you get clicks.
No question. And we really, as a coach, you try to guard against clicks. And I've not had to have had to do that at all this year. Every meal I kind of check it out, and everyone's sitting by different people, and there's different conversations, and so on the road, we're really together. We have a really good group of guys, and sometimes at home, you got different distractions. You got trying to get tickets. Your parents are coming to the game. Where's your girlfriend sitting? All that nonsense. And I've talked about that as a team. That. After the Maryland Eastern Shore game, I said, guys, we've learned how to win on the road. We got to figure out how to win at home.
You don't hear many coaches say that.
We have to, and there are different obstacles, and different things that go on at home that you try to manage the best you can, but it is hard, and but I think that we're starting to figure that out too.
Coach, you win at home against Jacksonville State this past weekend on Saturday, 34-22. You had the lead at the half. You led by as many as 21 in this game. To me, it was similar to the reciprocal game of us at Arkansas State. Jacksonville State did to us what we did to Arkansas State on the road, where they came back from 21 down and tied it up.
No doubt. I mean, I was really disappointed. I mean, obviously excited and happy that we won. I was really disappointed in how we played the last 8 minutes. I thought we lost our edge. I thought that we lost our aggression. We lost, just the ability to understand what helped us get the lead. And, we stopped executing. We got too loose and too careless with the ball at times, which led to not defending at the intensity level that you need to defend at. And, we hopefully learned a great lesson. But I wasn't very, I was disappointed with how we finished that game. But it's always better to learn from a win than it is from a loss.
Yeah. I Coach McMillan on the pregame. Would you rather win ugly or?
Always win ugly.
Yeah. We'll take our final break and come back. We'll look at the season, some of the stats, and ahead of the games coming up this week with Coach Heath Schroyer on the UT Martin Skyhawk Sports Network.